Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Mitch. Good Monday morning to you all. Hope you guys are doing great out there this morning and having a wonderful start to your day and a great beginning to your new week out there so far. We have a lot to discuss in this morning's video as we try to figure out what the weather is going to do next. And what we do know is confidence is pretty high that, a lot of cold air is going to spill down to a low of 48 over the next several days. But, you might say, well, it's cold out there right now, Mitch. And I would agree. It's going to be pretty cold, continue to be pretty cold between now and the end of this work week for a lot of areas, especially the eastern U.S. We're going to have a brief spike in temperatures, especially for the southern tier of the country as we get into this weekend. In fact, I would say it'll be a welcomed warm up. At least I can speak for myself. Need to get out there in the yard and do some things this weekend before this next cold blast comes that we're about to talk about. And as we, get into this weekend, even for some people, like the northern tier of the country, cold air will start to drop down out of Canada, and then it will pretty much overspread the entire lower 48 as we go through in time after that. So as we get into early next week, a true Arctic air mass is going to be taking over the entire lower 48, and I do think this will be the coldest air of the winter season, which is pretty wild to think about considering the fact that it's been a very cold winter for a lot of people so far. It's definitely a lot different compared to the last few winters for a lot of people. The next question is, are we going to get winter storms out of this? Are we going to get any winter weather? I would answer that and say yes. It's just that's a pretty broad yes, right? Like I don't know exactly who's going to see winter weather, but I'm pretty confident someone is. And I think that it's going to happen pretty far south too. There'll be a shot across the central U.S. and there'll be a shot across the eastern U.S. too, like the I-95 corridor. I think a lot of people will have some opportunities coming up for winter weather. So we're going to break all this information down. Everything will be sectioned out pretty well throughout the video, timestamp wise, so take advantage of that. If you guys have not subscribed, certainly consider doing that. Like the video if you like it. If anybody has anything that I can pray about or pray over, please put it in the comments below. Let's get rocking and rolling this morning. So this is the latest 6 to 10 day temperature outlook. This takes us from the 18th through the 22nd of January. So what is it, the 13th now? So here over the next 5 days, this is when this time period starts. And we're well into this Arctic blast in that time period, right? We click this purple. It's an 80% chance of temperatures being below average. That is a large area that has high confidence in below average temperatures. We click this shade of blue right here, 70% chance. This is 60, this is 50, this is 40, and this is 33. So I want you to kind of freeze this image in your head somehow, and we're going to switch it to the precipitation outlook. Okay, same time period, the 18th through the 22nd. And yeah, there's some areas where they're leaning towards more drier conditions. And then there's areas in the green where they're leaning towards wetter conditions. I keep looking at this and it looks like an avocado. But anyways, so the green areas, they're leaning towards saying, hey, there's a good chance in that 4-day time period of precipitation being above average. So I click on this, it's saying a 50% chance here. This lighter shade of green is a 40% chance. And this even lighter shade of green is a 33% chance to be exact. And then this grayed out area, I would say they're pretty much saying that, there's about a chance of average precipitation for this time period. So you match that chance of below average temperatures with this chance of above average precipitation, and look at the south and look at the plains, the high plains and areas of the Rockies, then that would tell me that even though you see green, your eyes see green, that doesn't necessarily mean rain. It could mean snow, freezing rain, sleet, wintry mix. It could be many things. It could mean storms, but precipitation, right? So, and even if you live in this area and you're a big snow fan, the Midwest, the upper Midwest, don't get too bummed out. That doesn't mean you're not going to get any precipitation. It's just saying, hey, 40% chance, 33% chance of leaning dry. So that's a chance of it being drier than average. So hope that makes sense. But what's wild is you'll even go to the 8 to 14 day outlook, the entire country just about showing temperatures below average. I don't want to trip up and say above average, because I might do that. It's a lot of saying average one way, average the other, right? And the blue area, that's a 70% chance of temperatures being below normal. This is a 60% chance. This is a 50. This is a 40. This is a 33. Same thing as the last graphic I just showed you. So even as we're getting, and this is between, this is between the 20th and the 26th. So getting pretty deep into January. It's wild. It's only January 13th, but I feel like New Year's Day was like 5 weeks ago. At least to me, it feels like that. But it's probably just because we've just been so focused day by day with the weather But anyway, so once again, you look at that and then you compare it against the precipitation outlook, and it's kind of the same areas, right? You know, the south, the southeast areas, the mid-Atlantic, saying 33% chance of precipitation being above normal. In this area, it's a 40% chance. So leaning towards it being wetter than average, whether that's snow, rain, something in between, right? So that is the latest from the Climate Prediction Center. Now let's dive into the Euro Ensemble. Now this kind of confuses people, but just think the bluer colors and the greener colors and the cooler colors, which are those colors I just mentioned, that's temperatures that are below average. That's colder temperatures. The colors like right in here, I mean, the yellows, the oranges, the reds, even this kind of whitish, brownish color, that's temperatures above normal. So I'm going to try to mention time frames as I go, but it's up here. So we're in a January 17, that kind of time frame, and we're still dealing with below average temperatures across the southeast. It's going to be a cool week, and I'm starting this, at the end of this week too. But as we're getting into this weekend, we're getting into Saturday. A little spike in temperatures, above average temperatures as we get into Saturday. Someone might get lucky, hit 70 degrees. Heck, some people will get into the 60s. I mean, maybe even into the Carolinas, Tennessee. It'll be a nice warm up. Unfortunately, it looks like we're going to get some rain in this warm up. So I don't know if you're going to be able to get out and about and do some things, do some cleaning up, some winter cleaning. But you can already tell as we're getting this spike or moderation in temperatures for the south, as we get into Saturday, January 18th in the Northeast and the Eastern U.S., we're already getting the Arctic hammer dropping down. So as we start to move into Sunday, a dramatic cold front most likely will move across the central, the south central, and areas of the Eastern U.S. And this is the Euro Ensemble too. This isn't just one crazy operational run. And you see the greens here. If you look really closely down here, and I know it's hard to see on your screen, especially if you're looking at a phone, but these are temperatures that are 10, 15 degrees below average. So if your average temperature is 50 degrees this time of the year, your highs might only be in the 30s. But you start to get into this whitish purple color right in here. I mean, that's starting to get over 15 to 20 degrees below average. And then that kind of Barney color you see come up on your screen, I mean, that's over 25 degrees below average. That's true Arctic air, frigid air. I mean, highs, might not even get above 0 degrees in certain areas depending on where you live. And then the cold air begins as we're getting into early next week. Literally a week from today, this is how close this is. It begins to take over the entire lower 48. I mean, wall-to-wall cold, right? Except maybe, Florida, still hanging on to slightly above average temperatures. But eventually it will get to Florida too. We start to get into Tuesday of next week, January the 21st. I mean, look at this cold, guys. Starts to take over the entire eastern U.S. Frigid Arctic air. I mean, this is going to mean business. Now, one of the biggest complaints I read in the comments and breaking down the last pattern was, whatever happened to all that Arctic air, the historic Arctic air. I never said historic, but a lot of people did. And I even said I thought it was going to be very, very cold, maybe dangerously cold. Well, it moderated. And I think that this is probably going to moderate a little bit too. I don't think it's going to be as cold as maybe what some of these outputs are saying. But what I will say is, this is the EPS, the Euro Ensemble. It blends like 51 members together and then creates a mean and average, just like it does with the snow. It does it with the temperatures here, except these are temperature anomalies. So we keep this going, and the cold just hangs out for a while. This is the 7 to 10 day range. We're getting into the 22nd. This is very cold temperatures across the eastern U.S. And then, just like any air mass, it begins to moderate some. But if you look at this run, it lasts all the way through just about the end of January. Just hangs out with us. This is going to be probably one of your coldest Januaries on record. I would say it could be a top 5 or 10 as for a lot of people. A lot of people. So just to kind of look at what this looks like as far as comparing the actual temperatures, this is the run of the Euro last night. And we'll start this. This is around Saturday, January the 18th. So this is about early afternoon Saturday of this coming weekend. So this is the spike in temperatures I'm talking about. Look at it rising to the low 70s along the Gulf coastline. Enjoy this. Get out and enjoy this. Even if it's raining, take an umbrella out there, soak in that warm air if you're a warm air fan, because look how this cold front crashes in. So this coming Sunday morning, 6 days from now, cold front begins to move in. And maybe one last little warm day for Florida and the southeast, warmish day I would say, and then the cold front moves in, and then this is like temperatures around midday, early afternoon next Monday, and it doesn't even have temperatures above freezing, guys. It has temperatures highs like I mean, in the 20s in the deep south. So very cold temperatures, and then we move it into the next time frame. Like these are low temperatures next Tuesday morning. I mean, look at these negative readings, below zero. And then we move it to the next time frame. I mean, this is getting into like Wednesday, and it begins to, moderate somewhat across the southern plains. But, we don't know exactly if there's going to be multiple rounds. For example, it shows another round loading up right here and then spilling down to the country. And, this is getting into the 25th. This is getting into the 26th, 27th. But the really core of the cold air moves in this weekend. Now, this is Monday. This is Tuesday. This is Wednesday of next week. This is Thursday of next week. And then we could have another shot. I think we'll have multiple shots kind of reinforcing one another, kind of like the last air mass. Now, the big question is, are we going to get winter weather? So this is the latest Euro from overnight. If you watched last night's video, or you're even somewhat active in the weather world, you know that yesterday afternoon's Euro dropped just a ridiculous winter storm across all of the southern U.S. into the southeast and the mid-Atlantic. Is it showing it this morning? Well, I'm going to go on and answer that and say, no, it's not showing anything. And that's why, I harp on so much that it's not a forecast, and people get so irritated and bummed out, and they get so emotionally driven off all these model runs, and then, say that it's over, winter stinks, it never snows at my house. That's why I say a million times, you can't look at this stuff as if it's a forecast. You can't tell everybody, hey, such and such showed snow over my house at 3 o'clock next Tuesday, and that's going to just spread like a wildfire, guys. You got to help me out here. You got to help others out. Now, there is some people that might say it is a forecast. I can't speak for everybody. But let's start this off this coming Friday, the 17th, January. We're moving forward here, and the reason I do this is because we try to narrow down time frames too, and I like to add in my opinion on time frames that I like for winter weather, and that's exactly what I'm going to do here. So the first time frame to watch, and as you can tell, the 540 line here, that blue line, that is cold air dropping down. It's so cold, it's squeezing out every bit of moisture. We're getting these light snow returns. I think Denver, the Rockies, the Front Range is going to end up getting some sort of snowstorm out of this. A cold one, too. So get ready, Denver, this weekend. But you see this amped up system right here? This low pressure is cutting because the jet has not sagged south. So this low is kind of cutting across the eastern U.S. This is going to bring a lot of rain for areas that have snow on the ground, like the Ohio Valley, the southern Alps. And this low pressure continues to move in. This jet that's digging down, this cold air press is beginning to suppress this low pressure and kind of make it go more so west to east. So we're just getting a lot of rain this weekend across the southeast. But the cold air tries to catch up with some of this moisture across the southern and central Alps, a little bit of snow across West Virginia and surrounding states. And then the cold air finally catches up with the moisture around here on the Euro. And next, this coming Sunday into Monday morning, pops off a low pressure here, wants to dump some light snow across the mid-Atlantic and the northeast, and then it heads on out. Now, there's some other scenarios I want to show you too with that, because some models are showing a larger winter storm at the tail end of this coming weekend into early next week. And then the real true cold air press drops down. Now, it's so cold, it's snowing down here in Brownsville, Texas, as we're getting the next Tuesday morning on this run. But, you had the 540 line all the way down to the northern Gulf of Mexico. But there's no moisture in this area. Okay, nothing, and we keep going. But what you can see is there's a ton of moisture over Florida. I cannot talk this morning. I've struggled mightily even starting this video. In fact, if you look closely, there's a little shade of blue over north central Florida where it's showing it's snowing in northern Florida. So it's snowing like in Brownsville in this run. The moisture is there. It's just not coming north because this cold air press is so intense. It's suppressing all the moisture. And look at this. And I'm going to go on and zoom into this. I just love when it does that. That's sarcasm, guys. I don't love it. But here's a closer look at this. And look, it's actually, you can actually see some blue right here showing snow in Florida. So the moisture is there. It's just not getting pulled north. Ton of cold air available. It's just not coming north. And then you keep this going, And it really doesn't do anything in the time frame I like. Now, there is something coming here. Now, this is late next week, so there's no point in getting detailed about that. So you say, that stinks. It's not going to happen now. That's not what you take out of this. Okay, for people who are wondering, well, what did yesterday afternoon's run show? Well, it showed just something crazy. This is what it showed right here. Showed a major winter storm, right? But if you look at the current run, shows absolutely nothing. But the moisture is there. It's just suppressed. We're going to continue to get wild model runs in this time frame. I'm telling you, I like the 20th through the 23rd. Maybe even back it up one day and then move it forward one day in that time frame I just mentioned. So I like this time frame for something, even for the South, for everybody, for a lot of people. Now, what about the GFS from this morning? We'll start off Friday once again. We'll move this in motion. I think we're going to get some snow riding down this Arctic boundary along the Front Range, Wyoming, Colorado, all the way down, maybe as far south as like New Mexico, the panhandle of Oklahoma, into Texas. And then here's this big weather maker as we're getting into this weekend, Saturday the 18th. Time frames are up here if I'm forgetting to mention it. And this is mostly rain for a lot of people. We're getting rain across the southeast. But the cold air is trying to catch up with this moisture. At the same time, we got some snow digging down the New Mexico-Texas line here. And watch what happens. Low tries to develop right over the Appalachian Mountains. We got enough cold air at this point over areas of Kentucky. I mean, heck, even Tennessee, West Virginia. And then it develops into a winter storm as we're getting into this coming Sunday into next Monday across areas in the Mid-Atlantic and the Northeast. And, the I-95 corridor would struggle in this case, but I mean, that's just a scenario, right? And, but it's a lot stronger of a scenario than the overnight Euro. The overnight Euro had this low way off here, off the coast of the Northeast, and it was much weaker. This is much stronger, closer to the coastline, a lot heavier moisture getting thrown into the Northeast. So we're not going to ignore that for you folks in the Northeast. You guys have a winter storm potential right at the beginning of this pattern. And then the cold air press drops down, right? Look at the snow breaking out across the plains. Next Monday, are we going to have something pop up in that time frame? The moisture's trying to bubble up here. Here it is. Okay. And it does. Right at the last second, we even have some moisture right here. If we look in the eastern U.S., right at the last second, we have moisture that bubbles up, and it's a Outer Banks special. We get a winter storm in the extreme eastern sections of North Carolina. And it's a close miss. It's a just flat out a miss for southern New England. And does anything come after that? I think the potential is there for stuff to come after this time period. On this run, you keep it going, and no, nothing really does come after that, and then we lose the cold air. But, that's way out there, right? So Euro, nothing. GFS, as far as anything widespread, you might as well say nothing. Now, the Canadian is still locked into this scenario where, hey, here's this first system, right? As we're getting into late this weekend, we got snow dropping down across the plains until Sunday evening. Here's that little system for the Northeast. It doesn't show much like the GFS. It kind of follows more so the Euro. But what the Canadian does, and it's been doing this, is drops all the cold air further west, which I would say, hey, the pattern more so supports that earlier on, but we've had some ticks east. But it wants to drop all the cold air out west, so that means we lose a lot of our ridging out west. So this brings a big winter weather event for Texas across this axis right here. Arkansas, more winter weather for northern Mississippi, northern Louisiana, across Tennessee, and it basically floods the entire southeast for the most part with just good old-fashioned rain. And then it wants an overrunning event across the northeast, a lot of snow, and the Canadian is really locked into that scenario. Now, I don't know what would happen at the end of the run, but the Canadian really likes that time frame that I like, which is about the 19th through the 23rd, but it likes it more so further west for the southern plains, the mid-south, maybe the western deep south, like, Louisiana, Mississippi. And a lot of people wonder, Mitch, what do you consider the mid-south? I think Tennessee is the heart, the central state of what I consider the mid-south. Tennessee, but I throw northern Alabama into that, northern Mississippi, and Arkansas, even areas of Kentucky. That's what I really call the mid-south. Once you get, say, into central Mississippi, central Alabama, really Georgia, I would say that that's the deep south. And I would kind of match Georgia, the Carolinas, Florida into the southeast frame. And everybody has preferences. Everybody has different views on that, but that's kind of my take. The Southern Plains is like Texas, Oklahoma, and stuff like that. So if you ever hear me using these geographical terms and you're like, man, that don't make any sense. Well, everybody has different takes on that, right? The Midwest and the Ohio Valley is a big one. I would never want to consider Ohio the Midwest, but to most, that's what it's considered. But the icon, I just want to show the very end of this run. The icon looks like it's going to follow something with what the Canadian is showing. It looks like it's going to drop a lot of the cold air further west. Therefore, you start to get a winter storm across Texas, and you get the flexing of the ridge across the southeast. So I think that this would go on and be missed for the southeast, and it would probably bring a winter storm for these areas probably right into here. If you could continue this run, that's what I would say, and it would miss this entire region right into here. And then you got the Euro AI model, and I could show every single one of them, but I'm going to leave the Euro AI model out. It didn't really show anything. It showed a winter weather event deeper into next week. So let's begin to dive into what the snowfall signal is. Now, just a reminder, this does not reflect ice. I could pull up the ice average, but I don't have it pulled up in this video. It's not super important this far out anyways, but what we're looking for is that winter weather footprint. Where is it? So the latest Euro Ensemble from overnight for the central U.S., and then we'll show you the eastern U.S. Here it comes. What you're going to notice is the average snowfall mean begins to shift south, and that's a pretty solid signal for Wyoming down to Denver. I think Denver's going to get a snowstorm out of this as we're getting to this weekend. We'll talk more on that when we need to. I will get detail for you folks. In the high plains, central high plains, I think you guys are going to get some winter weather. There's a pretty solid signal for it as we're getting into this weekend. And then the threat begins to shift south. It looks like the higher average is right here through kind of the central plains and through the Midwest, but you do have a little bit of a signal down here. And then as we start to get deeper into the run, and we'll go all the way out until about the end of next work week, you start to have an average or a mean down here pretty far south. The southern plains, the western deep south, you have an inch snowfall mean in like Memphis, but this is not a forecast, guys. This is just an average of a bunch of members thrown together. It's the Euro Ensemble, so it averages out about 51 members. Some members might hit a big snowstorm. Some members might do nothing. And then you might have some members that, show a light event. So just keep that in mind. So that is the latest blend between now and next Friday morning. Not this Friday morning, next Friday morning. What does the GFS Ensemble show? You notice it begins to, the footprint comes south as the cold air does. Now, what about for the Central Plains for the GFS Ensemble? This makes up not as many members, but combines them all together. I believe it makes 31 members, combines them all together. I always get confused if it's 21 or 31. I should know this by now. But anyways, same thing. Creates an average here, blends it all together, and then you get the numbers you see on your screen. And the same thing, we get into this weekend, there's a signal for snow across the Rockies, and then that signal begins to show up for the deep south. And there it is. It's obviously picking up some members where it likes snow across areas of, Texas, Louisiana, Mississippi, northern Alabama. But it begins to spike once again as we're getting into that time frame I like. So as I get this in motion, this is technically the evening of the 19th. So we're getting into the 20th. We're getting into the 21st, we're getting into the 22nd, we're getting into the 23rd. And remember, this is as far out as it goes, about 10 days out, which is really a good range that we can look at. And once again, you see that range, that time frame I like, the 19th through the 23rd. It begins, you start to get some southern solutions showing up for snow. In fact, you got, you got around a 2-inch snowfall mean in northern Louisiana. This is probably skewed by some bigger members, but it's really splotchy on the GFS Ensemble, right? Now let's look at the Euro Ensemble for the eastern U.S. So same thing. We're at the evening of Saturday, not expecting any winter weather between now and then, and then we get into Monday morning, the 20th. Look, this is where we are, the 20th. Says it up here too, and you're going to see that snow mean, that average, begin to creep south. So we see some larger members showing up, and we take this all the way out to next Friday, January the 24th. And as you can tell, there's definitely a bigger signal, snowfall average for areas of the Mid-South, kind of the areas of the western deep south, and there is something for the southeast. And once you get into North Carolina, Virginia, it spikes. And I looked at the members this morning, and some of them did show more, I would say, western scenarios, but there was still a lot of members that showed kind of a footprint of snow across the southeast too. And we even have a snowfall average for like northern sections of Florida. So, I mean, and this is a pretty solid average up here in the Northeast and the Mid-Atlantic, the Ohio Valley also. So, I mean, I think you got chances coming up for you folks also. The pattern, we're going to have a lot of flip-flopping, just like we always do, right? Now, what about the GFS ensemble? Okay. Same thing, we'll start off this coming Saturday evening. Nothing showing up for the Deep South. We could get a little bit of snow for the mountains, southern Alps, North Carolina, Tennessee. We continue to move forward here. We're going to see, once again, the signal for snow creep south. We are starting to get into the 20th, and then the morning of the 21st, and then we start to move into the 22nd, and then we start to move, and we go all the way out to Thursday morning. And once again, what I'm seeing here is you're getting a westward tick in some of these members. So you see the swath is showing up a little bit more for areas of the Mid-South, the western sections of the Deep South, like Mississippi, northern Alabama. And you don't have, I would say, and this only goes out into Thursday morning. You don't have as big of an average, say, for Georgia as a whole, South Carolina, southern Alabama, as you did, say, the runs prior. And we're going to get a lot of this flip-flopping. And remember, I told you a few days ago, I said that the pattern itself, at least initially, supported a big cold air press in the central U.S. That means that the winter weather track is probably going to be to our west if you live in the southeast, the Carolinas. But I mean, this is still an inch and a half snowfall average for the Greenville-Spartanburg area into Charlotte. It just dramatically cuts off once you get further south. Now, there's probably ice members into this too that we can't see because this just shows snow. But there is somewhat of a decent mean average up here for the Mid-Atlantic also. There is a little snow hole up here in the southern New England area. But listen, don't look at this and just draw a massive conclusion out of it, if you will. So that's some of the snowfall averages. So, you know, it's hard to call anything a trend. For example, the run last night had a better look for areas of the southeast and not as good of a look for areas further west. The run prior to that, I mean, it was really splotchy. So we're just going to get some flip-flopping here, a lot of flip-flopping, and to, you know, I would say the pattern locks into a solution as far as winter weather. Now, as far as breaking down this pattern, I'll start this off for this coming Thursday evening, which, by the way, it's crazy. It's under 100 hours already. And we're getting this spiking of the ridge. This is going to begin to dislodge cold air. So the blue cold air trough of low pressure, the areas in these warmer colors like the oranges, the reds, this is more so a ridge, warmer than average temperature. So two things I want you to look at here. We're getting this spike in this ridge all the way up into Alaska. We call that a negative EPO. This dislodges cold air, so you're about to see the entire lower 48 look blue. But another thing that I'm noticing here is this area right here. This is lower pressure over areas of the Pacific. This is our southern stream energy that's about to start moving over areas of the lower 48, the southern tier of the country. So you look at that, moisture, source of moisture, and then you look at this drop of cold air about to come down, and this is probably going to introduce some winter weather chances across areas of the country. So we get this in motion. Here it goes. Boom. Drops down. This is getting into this coming Saturday, big, tall, spiking ridge. Dislodgement of cold air into this dip in the jet stream, which is going like this. We got energy shooting down here. We got energy coming down here. And we're probably going to get some connection of energy potentially right into here to create some sort of winter weather event because we do have all that cold air getting dislodged. This is a true, I'm going to move this a little bit further. This is a true cross-polar flow. We have a connection from the Arctic dropping down. Just a solid ridging, energy coming down here, energy coming down here, energy coming over here. You're going to get a connection, and all that blue and green you see on your screen, that's a lot of cold air coming down with this dip in the jet stream. So the pattern is going to support winter weather pretty far south, and it could support winter weather for other areas too, for the eastern U.S. and just a lot of people. it definitely is a pattern that supports a ton of cold air all the way from Siberia. I mean, crossing from the true source of the Arctic into the area. And then with an active storm track, cold air, someone is going to get hit. Who is it going to be? I doubt with the, I would say this, I doubt with the position of this trough that we're just going to stay dry and cold for everybody. I just doubt it. So, moving forward and talking about the weather today, this is the latest watches and warnings. My radar was not working this morning, so I don't have a look at the radar, but we do have some special weather statements, and this is probably just because of some of the snow that's refreezed in some areas. We have these lake effect snow warnings south of Buffalo, and then the Tug Hill Plateau off Lake Ontario. Winter weather advisories away from the lakes with a little bit of lake effect snow extending off the lakes. We got these winter weather advisories also for the Great Lakes region for some lake enhanced action. We do have this ongoing winter storm warning that expires tomorrow for areas of the western UP of Michigan. We have these cold weather advisories, which is something it's new over the last couple of years that they've issued with these really cold temperatures. But it looks pretty quiet out there. You know, the southeast, we have this low pressure moving across areas. We've had some reports of some sleet across central and northern Georgia, maybe a little bit of freezing rain out there. We're going to deal with this pesky rain, maybe a thunderstorm or two across Florida today, and then this will head on off. This will leave us, if you're not getting any rain from this in areas of the southeast, it'll leave a lot of people with some clouds. Just a cloudy Monday. Some rain will cross over the peninsula of Florida this evening, and then this will pretty much be done by the time we're waking up tomorrow morning. Now, the northeast, we're going to get this lake effect snow that's going to continue off Lake Erie in Ontario. And we're going to get some of these snow showers that are going to break loose off the lake. So we could get some snow across Vermont, New Hampshire, Western Mass. In fact, could get a burst of snow all the way to Boston, maybe Rhode Island later this evening. Some snow will be falling later tonight across the state of Maine. And then we'll just continue to get this, just some rounds of snow all the way into tomorrow morning. We still got this lake effect snow popping off Ontario, Erie, and then as shot of cold air comes through tomorrow afternoon, we could get some snow showers that breaks loose off the lakes and makes it all the way to the big cities along the I-95 corridor. And we could even get some, I wouldn't be surprised, we get some ocean effect snow. I'd watch out Cape Cod, Southeast Mass. So snowfall between now and the next 48 hours, a little bit of snow into Maine, not a whole lot. Northern Vermont, northern New Hampshire, a few to several inches of snow. That's not what I meant to push. And we go back to this, and then we look at New York, and we go back to snow. Watertown, 4 to 5 inches of snow, but south of Watertown, folks, you see that splotch of orange? Folks, that's getting over almost 2 feet of snow. That's a lot. Buffalo itself, a few inches of snow just south of Buffalo. If we're looking at the key down here, this is 6 to 12 inches of snow, maybe more in certain areas, so a lot. And then a little bit of snow is possible in some of these towns and cities away from the lakes. And then just taking a look at, say, PA, Erie could get over a foot of snow over the next 48 hours. Jamestown, 4 to 5 inches of snow. And then we take a look at, say, Ohio. And Cleveland, maybe 2 inches of snow, but far northeast areas of Ohio could certainly get several inches of snow out of this. And just dusting amounts across everywhere else. So the south central U.S., very quiet day. Maybe some snow showers across New Mexico, southern Colorado. Outside of that, maybe some flurries, maybe early tomorrow morning across Missouri, but not a whole lot going on today across your neck of the woods in the southern plains. Now, the north central U.S., as this low that's spinning around up here will continue to just kind of crank and move around, we're going to get some lake effect snow off Lake Superior especially, but you're really going to have to be close and tucked into the shoreline to get this. But this could be quite heavy, and then it could break loose a little bit further away from the coastline as we're getting into tomorrow morning. But I think it will begin to lighten up as we get into tomorrow. But snowfall between now and the next 48 hours, another 10 inches is possible. And Houghton and Marquette, 3 to 4 inches of snow. Basically, you got to be within, I would say, 60 miles. I don't know. You guys local could probably voice this a little bit more of the lake to really get into a lot of snow. Here's the key down here. Once you get into that purple area, that's over 6 inches. So 6 to 12 inches of snow is possible in these areas. And then we go down to lower Michigan, Traverse City, 7 to 8. Grand Rapids, 3 to 4. Even maybe like an inch of snow in Detroit's possible. Kalamazoo, 2 to 3 inches of snow. So, dang, just flat out left my folks out west hanging. I do apologize. Let's look at the western U.S. I know y'all probably already don't like me anyways because I haven't been talking about you guys as much. It's just been quiet out there, guys. Nothing unusual at all. and it's just very difficult to get detailed about everybody. But the snow flying around here in Montana down to Wyoming is about the only general thing out here today. I mean, it's pretty much that's where all the energy is, and it's not really a lot of energy at all. But temperatures, you're getting back to around average temperatures, at least for today, across the deep south and the southeast, but still a chilly day. Man, check out central to South Florida. I mean, getting into the 70s and the 80s, nice day. And Disney World, but I would say that the cold air is close by. And then here comes a shot of cold air. This is a very quick moving shot of cold air, but a potent shot of cold air. Highs only in the teens and the 20s across the Midwest and the Ohio Valley. Cold day in Kentucky, even Tennessee. And then here's the temperatures out west. That's all I got, guys. Thank y'all for tuning in. Felt like I was a little messy in that video. It's going to happen sometimes when we're making 2 a day. But appreciate all the support. We'll continue to try to figure out this pattern. Just remember, as we're doing so, especially if you live in the South, don't buy into every model run. Don't get too overly bummed. And I would say don't get overly excited about every single model run because they're going to flip back and forth. So we still got a lot to figure out with this pattern. God bless everybody. Have a wonderful day, and I'll talk to you again this evening.